Hey, we're live again. You're back with KetoDick. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a cool nickname. But follow my channel below. Okay, I don't have a channel either. Why am I doing this? I got a message or two about that. Because I want to do a podcast about other stuff and business stuff, and I'm just practicing broadcasting and talking. And because I happen to be eating keto at the moment, I'm reading keto, and I'm on the forums anyways, reading your questions and answering them in comments, and some people prefer video to comments, so for those people I'm just regurgitating a lot of stuff that I read or things that make sense to me. So let's start with my standard disclaimer. Why from a random guy? Because I am not a qualified dietitian, medical professional, or anything else. This is just some shit I think, so please don't plan your life. Please do not treat your medical conditions. Please do not advise other people to treat their medical conditions based on the advice that I give you or the things that I say in here. I don't even want to call it advice because it's well, probably some of it's advice. I don't know. It's all just ideas, suggestions. Take them or leave them. So I don't have as much time today, but I wrote a little title on this, and it says, well, I can't even see what it says anymore, but so we're talking about exercise, we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about why I eat less fat, and a couple other things. So one of the questions I see is, do I need to exercise? I don't know, maybe. Exercise is great for you. It depends on what your goals are. If you're trying to lose weight, then probably if you have to... See, the real question becomes, do I have to exercise? In a perfect world, you would do all the things. Everybody would do all the things. But we don't live in a perfect world, and that's not going to happen. So what you want to do is prioritize which things are more important given the time that you have, whatever your restriction is, whether you have kids or you're very busy professionally. Excuse me. So if that's the question, do I need to exercise? My answer is, how much time do you have? And if your meal prep is already done, if your food is on point, if you've had time to get to the grocery store, and you're sure that your diet is going to be on for this week, I would add in some exercise. If what your concern is losing weight, if your concern is regulating insulin or blood sugar or overall general health, then exercise is good for all of those things. And for me to say, like, you don't need to exercise would be silly. So what exercise, how much exercise, that's like a whole other thing for a whole other channel. This is a way of eating, not necessarily a way of life. So keto doesn't have an exercise prescription outside of all the normal exercise prescriptions that you would get. What you do have with keto is a little bit of a restriction that if you're an extreme athlete or like a bodybuilder, and I've seen people say they're lifting weights at Planet Fitness and therefore they're bodybuilding, sure, but that's not what I mean. When we talk about people with different dietary restrictions or dietary requirements, we're talking about people that are carrying maybe 20 or 30 pounds more muscle than a lean, healthy person of their size would. People that are carrying like vanity muscle. And I don't want to say it's all vanity. It can be health supported, it can be functional, but the amount of muscle that's no longer practical for a normal American activity like going grocery shopping, watching television, and working at a desk. If you're carrying a lot more muscle than that, then possibly you need to supplement carbohydrates to go about either your day or your workout. But for the rest of America that has moderate levels of activity and isn't carrying large... I mean, if people don't notice outright that you're muscular, regardless of the amount of weightlifting you're doing, unless it's some 5 to 7 time a week program, you probably don't need supplementation outside of normal keto. So there's little footnotes about exercise that if you do a ton of it, keto might not work for you. And again, work for you just means you're going to come up flat in those exercises, or you might not perform to your optimum. By the way, the noise in the back is my dog has a bone, and he's chewing on it. So exercise, yeah, it's great. You should do it. The number one preventer of early death is exercise. People that are cardiovascularly active versus not. So I recommend exercise, of course, but not necessarily if your specific problem is weight loss. And so when you talk about medicine, you know, you always talk about, like, if we're going to make a cut to someone for any reason, to do a triple bypass or to close a bleeding artery, you're putting that patient at risk. The whole concept of doing no harm, it's comparative. you have to risk an infection to treat anything inside the body. If you're going to repair a bone that's broken with pins or something, you're opening up a portal for infection in order to treat the broken bone. So you have to decide, when there's something that needs to be done, are there other acceptable health consequences? So if your weight is such that, or if your blood sugar is such that a medical intervention is appropriate, keto might be perfect for you and for that intervention. But does it have side effects? Some people have talked about heart disease and liver function issues on long-term ketogenic diets. Some people have talked about kidney stones, and depending on what your medical concerns are and your genetic backgrounds are, those might be concerns for you. So I'm going to get to the last part of my status update, intervention, the concept of intervention versus diet. I think when people think diet, they think approved foods or not approved foods, or a period of like restricted eating, and then you have people that post WOE, way of eating, and so for those people, I think they anticipate being keto for life, and I certainly think you can be low carb for life. I don't know about very low carb or extremely low carb or trying to maintain ketosis for life. Don't really want to comment on that. But what I will say is that for some people, it may be an insulin problem, it may be a habit problem, like an addiction problem, or it may be a cultural practice problem, eating and obesity. And so going with a ketogenic diet for a period of time, for example, your level of background insulin drops with your belly fat percentage. And insulin's one of the drivers of hunger. So if you go ketogenic to lose weight and then you return to theoretically a normal diet, you may be better able to access your body fat because you have lower insulin levels. So you don't necessarily have to stay on the diet all of the time. Oh, now you can see his little head shadow from him chewing the bone in the background. That's kind of cool. So your background insulin may drop after a weight loss intervention, and then after your insulin's dropped, maybe you can return to a normal way of eating and not have problems with that. It may be your accelerated insulin levels that are causing it to be hard for you to lose weight, or that caused you to gain weight in the first place. So you can look at medical intervention as a short-term reason to do a ketogenic diet, and then perhaps return to a more standard American diet, although I think the standard American diet has definite carbohydrate problems. So the other thing that I want to talk about is nutrition. I see it all the time in these fat bombs and the bulletproof coffee and everything else. Listen guys, you need to get some nutrition also. So when you look at broccoli and lettuce, don't just think of those as a source of empty carbs. Because I've done the nutrition profiles on things, you know, somebody today said that they do a half a cup of heavy whipping cream, 2 tablespoons of butter in 16-ounce cup of coffee, and I mean there's some vitamin A in there, there's arguably supplemented vitamin D, there's some calcium in there, you know, there's different types of fats in there that are good for you, there's a little bit of protein in there for you, but you know, you're missing a lot of your vitamin profile if you focus so heavily on fats and stuff. And it's fine that you can get those things other places, but if you're, I mean, for me, calorie restriction probably means 1,500 calories, and basal is somewhere over 2,000, and I'm a big male, so almost everybody that's not severely obese should have lower calorie restrictions for me. So if I'm aiming for something like 1,300 or 1,500 calories, and you're looking at a bulletproof coffee recipe that's 500 calories, that means you have to get all of your basic nutrition out of the remaining 2/3 of your diet, the remaining 2/3 of your calories. And you know, if you're also having fat bombs on top of that, or if you're just eating a lot of bacon to hit your macros, then you're gonna start having long-term issues with your nutrition. So try to look for fat bomb recipes that include whole foods like parsley, thyme, rosemary. Some of those things have essential phytochemicals, and be concerned if you're leaning too heavily on sour cream, cream cheese, butter, coconut oil, olive oil for your daily nutrition, because I really worry about the nutrient profile that comes along with some of these diets, especially with how much vegetables and fruits are demonized. So if you have to be super restrictive on spending your carbs, maybe spend your carbs on some vegetable sources of nutrition once in a while. And maybe look into some of what those are, because they can be surprising. The leafy greens are the safest. All right, well, this has been Dick Simmons, KetoDick. No, I'm just kidding. I don't promote anything. I don't sell anything. I'm not qualified. I'm not trained. I don't have a degree in this. So feel free to ignore everything I say. I don't sell anything. I don't support any of the supplements. I don't have a commercial interest in this, and I'm not planning on starting any sort of diet or nutrition channel. I've just been getting a lot of views, and I wanted to answer people's questions. Have you heard of getting keto flu after doing keto for a month for the first time since eating keto without cheating? Yeah, if you've been cheating, you might not experience keto flu. At some point, you might go through keto flu. What is keto flu? It's kind of up in the air. Some people say it's related to electrolyte deficiencies. There's also reasons that you might, because it's just generically feeling crappy, and it's definitely not influenza. And you either feel crappy because you haven't upcycled your fat adaptation enough, so when you strip out glucose, you legitimately are starving, so you feel like you're starving and you have the side effects of starvation. Or it could be that you get a lot of some of your calcium, sodium, potassium, and magnesium through the preservation of carb-laden foods, and when you start to eat more whole foods, salt actually becomes something that disappears from your diet in a significant quantity. So you can supplement that with Himalayan salts, or you can eat whole foods like spinach and kale and things like that that have high calcium in them. You can add a little bit of salt to your food consciously, whether that's, you know, your mushrooms or what have you that you're cooking. Fortunately, I'm late for some stuff, so I gotta run soon. But do I eat cottage cheese, cream cheese, sour cream? I'm just starting, and it's hard to wrap my head around that as I'm trying to lose weight. Yeah, I eat all of those things, but as I said, they're kind of light in the vitamins and minerals, so try to limit how much of those things you lean on for your amounts of food. And the other thing is, I want to talk about, the last topic was why I eat less fat. So I used to eat about 250 to 300 carbohydrates a day, which at 4 calories a day was like 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day, and I ate about 2,000 calories a day. Going into keto, I still aimed for 2,000 calories a day, but I didn't want to push it. I just wanted to restrict the carbohydrates. So my carbohydrates were taking up 1,000 to 1,200 calories of my day. So I was eating 500, 400 calories each of protein and fat, roughly maybe 600 on a given day. So let's say I went to 70% fat, which is about where I've been sitting. My appetite after day 18 has fallen so far. Now I'm in the late day 20s. I might be on day 30. I don't know. Actually, I'm on day 31. So I'm on day 31, and my appetite's dropping such that I've been eating about 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day, 70% fat. But if you look at 1,000 calories a day and 70% fat, that means that I'm at 700 fat calories a day. I was at 500 or 600 before, so I'm not eating that much more fat, like 100 calories, which is 10 more grams, 11 more grams. 11 more grams of fat than I was eating before. I'm just eating 1,000 less calories because my appetite regulation is working so much better since I got rid of the carbohydrates. So a lot of people are asking, how do you eat so much fat and then make that a healthy diet? The answer is I'm only eating 10 grams more fat than I was before. I cut out carbohydrates and the appetite went away. And that's the secret to keto. It's not really high fat. It's slightly higher fat and almost no carbs. And the calorie restrictions come way down as long as you have weight to lose. Some people are doing keto and they're already thin. I don't know why they're doing keto. Maybe to regulate their blood sugar. Their blood sugar might already be fine. So they might enjoy the health benefits of continued energy or less sleep when they're on keto. But I don't know. But for the weight loss people, you have plenty of fat. So you can go into pretty heavy calorie restriction comfortably and without even feeling like you're doing that deliberately. And so that's what's been really helpful for me. That I don't actually eat much more than 10 grams more fat than I used to. I'm not hungry anymore since I stripped carbs out of my diet. All right, that's been me, and I gotta head out. Thank you, Kelsey Marie, for the questions, and I'll be back around. Also, for anybody that feels like they're tired of talking about keto, their friends don't want to hear about keto, they want to get some support or get feedback on their keto thing, feel free to send me DMs, direct messages, instant messages. I'd love to hear about your diet and how you're doing with keto. I'm not a diet professional, but I'll give you a little way to go, and I'll send you articles if you have a question. I think I have the answer, or I think I read something that says it has the answer. And I hope you guys all enjoy your lives and whatever your goals are. I hope you get there.